Dr. Minji Kim rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the glowing screens around her. She had been working for 12 hours straight in the deep underground levels of the Kepler Deep Space Observatory. The hum of machines filled the quiet room as data from distant stars flowed across her monitors. "Still here, Minji?" Dr. Taehyun Park walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. His white lab coat was wrinkled from another long day of research. "Something is wrong with this signal," Minji said, taking the warm cup gratefully. "Look at these patterns. Everyone says it's just space noise, but I don't think so." Taehyun pulled up a chair next to her workstation. The main screen showed waves of data that looked like mountains and valleys of light. Most scientists would see random noise, but Minji had been studying space signals for 15 years. She knew the difference between natural sounds from stars and something else. "See this part here?" She pointed to a section that repeated every few minutes. "Natural radiation doesn't do this. It's too organized, too perfect." The signal had been hiding in the background noise for months. Other research teams had looked at it and moved on to more interesting projects. But Minji kept coming back to it. Something about the pattern made her think of music, like someone far away was trying to play a song that only she could hear. She started running the signal through different filters and analysis programs. The quantum analyzer, their most advanced machine, worked day and night to break down the strange transmission. What it found made Minji's hands shake as she read the results. "Taehyun, come look at this," she called out 3 days later. Her voice was barely a whisper. The signal was artificially created. Someone or something had built a transmitter and had been sending this message into space. But the truly shocking part was how advanced the technology was. The encryption methods were so complex that their best computers could barely understand the basics. "This is impossible," Taehyun said, staring at the analysis results. "Our quantum systems are the most advanced in human history. What could make something this sophisticated?" Minji ran more tests. She checked and double-checked her work because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The signal was coming from a star system 847 light-years away. The computers calculated that the transmission had been broadcasting continuously for over 10,000 years. 10,000 years, she repeated to herself. That's longer than all of human civilization. The dead star system showed no signs of life. Ancient scans from deep space telescopes showed planets that had been cold and empty for millions of years. Yet somehow, something there was still sending messages across the galaxy. Over the following weeks, Minji and Taehyun worked together to decode small pieces of the transmission. The language was completely unknown. It didn't match any human language, or even follow patterns that human minds typically used. But buried within the strange words were mathematical constants that any intelligent species would recognize. The value of pi was there, the speed of light, the mass of a proton. These numbers were the same everywhere in the universe, and finding them in the signal proved that whoever sent it understood physics just as well as humans did. Maybe better. "It's like they're trying to prove they're intelligent," Taehyun observed one evening as they worked late again. "These mathematical proofs are too advanced to be accidental." Minji nodded, but her attention was focused on something else. The signal had a structure that reminded her of an emergency broadcast. Back on Earth, when dangerous storms or other disasters approached, radio stations would send out warning signals in repeating patterns. This alien transmission had the same urgent, repetitive quality. "What if this isn't just a message saying hello?" she asked suddenly. "What if it's trying to warn us about something?" The thought sent chills down both their spines. If an advanced civilization had spent 10,000 years broadcasting a warning signal, what could be so dangerous that they needed to keep transmitting long after their own world had died? Minji expanded her research team. She brought in the best linguists, mathematicians, and computer specialists she could find. The Kepler Observatory became the center of the most important translation project in human history. Everyone worked with a growing sense that time was running out for something, though they didn't yet know what. Late one night, as Minji sat alone with the endless stream of alien data, she realized something that made her heart race. The mathematical patterns in the signal weren't just proving intelligence, they were counting down. The numbers were getting smaller with each transmission cycle, like a timer approaching zero. Whatever the aliens had been warning about for 10,000 years, it was getting closer. She looked up at the ceiling of the underground laboratory, thinking about the vast darkness of space above. Somewhere out there, an ancient voice was screaming across the void, trying desperately to tell them something important. And humanity was finally advanced enough to hear the message, just as time was running out to understand it. The signal continued, its eternal broadcast, patient and relentless, waiting for someone to finally listen to what it had been trying to say for longer than human memory could reach. Lieutenant Commander Seung-Hwan Lee walked back and forth behind the rows of computers, like a caged animal. His military uniform was perfectly pressed, but his face showed the stress of 3 months without answers. The translation room buzzed with activity as 20 of humanity's smartest people worked around the clock. Dr. Minji Kim sat at the center, console, watching her team struggle with the alien language. She had brought together linguists who spoke dozens of Earth languages, mathematicians who understood the deepest secrets of numbers, and computer experts who could make machines think like humans. But the alien message was like trying to read a book written in colors that human eyes couldn't see. "Any progress, Dr. Choi?" Seung-Hwan asked, stopping behind a young man with thick glasses who was typing rapidly on 3 keyboards at once. Dr. Hyunwoo Choi looked up with tired eyes. "The AI systems keep hitting walls," he said. "It's like the language changes its own rules every few sentences. Just when we think we understand the grammar, everything shifts." The main screen showed thousands of alien symbols flowing like water. Some looked like geometric shapes. Others resembled twisted versions of mathematical equations. The most advanced artificial intelligence programs in human history worked day and night, but they could only translate tiny fragments before getting confused again. Minji stood up and walked to the coffee machine for the 10th time that day. Her hands shook slightly as she poured the dark liquid. 3 months of failure were wearing on everyone. The government officials who funded the project were starting to ask uncomfortable questions about results. "Maybe we're thinking about this wrong," said Dr. Yuna Han, a linguist who specialized in ancient Earth languages. "What if this isn't meant to be read like a normal message? What if it's more like a survival manual?" This comment made Hyunwoo stop typing. He stared at his screen with a new expression on his face. "A survival manual," he repeated slowly. "Not a story or a greeting, but instructions." He started running the alien symbols through different analysis programs. Instead of trying to translate the message as literature, he treated it like an emergency handbook. The breakthrough came 3 hours later when the computer recognized a pattern that repeated throughout the entire transmission. "I've got something," Hyunwoo called out, his voice cracking with excitement. The entire room went silent as everyone gathered around his workstation. The screen showed the first clear translation they had seen in months. Star charts appeared, showing the positions of hundreds of solar systems. Red markers indicated planets where intelligent life had once existed. Most of the markers were crossed out with symbols that clearly meant death or destruction. "These are tactical maps," Seung-Hwan said, his military training helping him recognize the strategic information. Someone was tracking battles across the galaxy. More translations appeared as the AI systems finally found the key to understanding the alien language. The message contained detailed information about something called the harvest. The words sent chills through everyone in the room, though they didn't yet understand what it meant. Hyunwoo's face went pale as more text appeared on the screen. "Look at the timestamp," he whispered. The computer had calculated when the message was originally sent. The date appeared in human numbers, approximately 12,000 years ago. "That's during Earth's last ice age," Minji said, her voice barely audible. Humans were still living in caves when this message was sent, but the most terrifying part was still coming. The final segment of the message translated slowly, word by word, as the entire room held its breath. The alien text appeared first, followed by the English translation underneath. "They return every 12,000 years. The cycle approaches. Prepare or run." The room fell completely silent. Even the humming of the computers seemed quieter as everyone stared at the words on the screen. Seung-Hwan felt his military training kick in as he realized the implications. This wasn't just an ancient message. It was a warning about something that was going to happen again. "Show me the mathematical progressions," Minji said, her scientific mind trying to understand the full scope of what they had discovered. Hyunwoo pulled up more sections of the translated message. Charts and graphs appeared showing cyclical patterns that repeated every 12,000 years. Each cycle ended with the destruction of advanced civilizations across entire regions of the galaxy. The pattern had been repeating for millions of years. "We're not the first civilization to receive this warning," Minji whispered, the full horror of the situation becoming clear. "This message has been broadcasting for 10,000 years, hoping that someone would be advanced enough to understand it before the next cycle begins." Dr. Yuna Han pointed to a section of text that was still being translated. "Look at this part. It's not just warning us about the danger. It's giving us two choices: prepare to fight or run away." The message was a legacy from a dead civilization, screaming across the void to anyone who might listen. Someone had used their final moments to build a transmitter that would warn future intelligent species about the horror that was coming. They had died so that others might have a chance to survive. Xiongwan looked at the countdown timer that had appeared on one of the screens. According to the alien calculations, humanity had less than 2,000 years before the next cycle began. It seemed like a long time, but the message made it clear that preparation would take centuries. The dead were trying to save the living, and time was running out. Captain Jiwan Nam pulled her thick winter coat tighter as the icy wind cut across the Martian landscape. Her breath formed small clouds in the thin atmosphere as she led her team toward the strange structure buried beneath centuries of frozen dust. The red planet had kept its secrets for a long time, but the alien warning had given them new places to look. "Careful with that equipment," she called to her team as they set up their scanners around the excavation site. The crystalline formation jutting from the ice looked nothing like natural rock. Its surface was perfectly smooth, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. Dr. Sun Woo Han knelt beside the structure with his quantum resonance scanner. The device hummed softly as it analyzed the molecular composition of the ancient artifact. His eyes widened as the results appeared on his screen. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, his voice filled with excitement and fear. "The quantum signatures are identical to the ones we found in the alien transmission. This thing is over. 10,000 years old, but it's still active at the quantum level." Jiwan moved closer to examine the readings. The scanner showed energy patterns that pulsed in perfect rhythm, like a heartbeat that had been beating for hundreds of centuries. The same mathematical constants that appeared in the alien warning were embedded in the structure's molecular design. "How is that possible?" asked Dr. Eunmi Park, the team's xenoarchaeologist. "Nothing should maintain quantum coherence for that long without a power source." The answer came from an unexpected source. As Sunwoo ran deeper scans, he discovered that the structure wasn't just a monument or building. It was a beacon, designed to last for thousands of years and broadcast a specific quantum signature to anyone who knew how to look for it. "It's a marker," Jiwan realized. "Someone left this here as proof that the warning message was real." Similar discoveries were being made across the solar system. On Earth, ancient stone circles that archaeologists had studied for decades suddenly revealed hidden quantum signatures when examined with the new scanning technology. The structures on Europa, buried beneath kilometers of ice, showed the same patterns. But the most disturbing evidence was coming from the deep space monitoring stations. Admiral Min Ho-yoon stood in the command center of the Luna Defense Platform, watching data streams from radio telescopes positioned throughout the solar system. The screen showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light representing known civilizations. "Show me the pattern again," he ordered his tactical officer. Lieutenant Daeho Kim manipulated the holographic display, showing the progression of events over the past 50 years. Civilizations on the outer edge of the galaxy had been going silent, one by one. At first it looked random, but when viewed over time, a clear pattern emerged. "They're moving inward," Minho said, his military mind recognizing the strategic approach, starting with the most advanced civilizations first, then working their way toward the center of the galaxy. The method was terrifyingly efficient. Advanced, species that might pose a threat were eliminated first, while younger civilizations were left for later when they would be easier to handle. The pattern suggested an intelligence that had been perfecting this approach for millions of years. Dr. Minji Kim joined the briefing via hologram from the Kepler Observatory. Her face was pale with exhaustion, but her voice was steady as she reported her findings. "We've identified similar warning beacons in 17 other star systems," she said. "Every single one shows evidence of a civilization that tried to warn others before they were destroyed. The quantum signatures are identical across all sites, suggesting they were all fighting the same enemy." The evidence was building into an undeniable truth. The entity or entities responsible for the cyclical destruction had been operating for millions of years. They moved through the galaxy like a cosmic plague, harvesting advanced civilizations, and then disappearing into the dark spaces between stars. "The Harvesters," Minho said quietly, using the name from the alien warning. "They're real, and they're already working their way toward Earth." The tactical displays showed the progression clearly. Based on the rate at which civilizations were going silent, the Harvesters would reach Earth's region of the galaxy within 50 years. The time for doubt and debate was over. Jiwan's team made one final discovery that confirmed their worst fears. Deep beneath the Martian ice, they found the remains of what appeared to be a small outpost. The quantum dating showed it was built approximately 12,000 years ago, during the last cycle. "Someone was here before," Sunwoo reported, his scanner revealing traces of technology far more advanced than anything humans had created. "They tried to establish a warning system, but something went wrong. The outpost showed signs of hasty evacuation. Equipment was abandoned, and the quantum beacons were left running on automatic systems. Whoever had built it had either fled or been destroyed before they could complete their mission." As Jiwan stood in the ancient ruins, she realized that humanity was facing the same choice that countless other civilizations had faced before them. The evidence was overwhelming and time was running out. The Harvesters were coming, and they had less than 50 years to decide whether to fight, flee, or find some other solution that no one had thought of before. The dead civilizations had left their warnings, and now it was up to the living to decide what to do with them. The Great Assembly Hall of the United Earth Council had never been so packed. Representatives from every nation, colony, and space station filled the seats, while millions more watched the live broadcast from around the solar system. The air was thick with tension as Dr. Minji Kim walked to the speaker's podium. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated the holographic display. Images of the ancient alien structures appeared above the crowd, followed by the translated warning message that had changed everything. The room fell completely silent as she began to speak. "The evidence is clear," Minji said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "The threat is real and it's coming whether we're ready or not. But the beings who sent this warning didn't just tell us about the danger. They gave us a way out." The display changed to show star charts that extended far beyond the edge of the galaxy. A small cluster of systems glowed green in the empty darkness between galaxies, impossibly far from Earth. "These coordinates lead to a hidden refuge," she continued. "A place where survivors from previous cycles have been waiting. The technology exists to evacuate our entire species, but the journey would take us so far from home that we could never return." Angry voices erupted from the assembly. Representatives jumped to their feet, shouting questions and demands. Some called for immediate evacuation, while others declared it cowardice to abandon Earth without a fight. President Dayun Song raised her hand for silence. As the leader of the unified Earth government, her word carried more weight than anyone else's. But even she looked overwhelmed by the magnitude of the decision facing humanity. "Admiral Yoon, present your assessment," she said. Admiral Minho Yoon stepped forward, his military bearing giving him an air of confidence even in this impossible situation. Behind him appeared tactical displays showing fleet positions and defense scenarios. "We have 50 years, he said firmly. 50 years to study their methods, build defenses, and prepare for war. The Harvesters have been using the same tactics for millions of years because they've never failed. But they've never faced an enemy that had advance warning and decades to prepare." He gestured to the holographic battle plans floating above the crowd. We can use their own pattern against them. We know they target the most advanced civilizations first. We can fake our technological regression while secretly building weapons they won't expect. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the representative from the Mars colonies, stood up. And if we lose, if all our preparations aren't enough, then humanity dies with Earth instead of surviving in exile. Better to die fighting than live as refugees, Admiral Yoon replied sharply. Running away means giving up everything that makes us human, our history, our culture, our home. President Song looked at Dr. Minji Kim. What else did you learn from the signal? Who were the ones who sent it? Minji's expression grew sad as she activated another part of the display. We finally identified the source of the transmission. It came from a multi-species alliance that formed during the last cycle. They represented dozens of different civilizations that chose to work together instead of facing the harvesters alone. The images showed the ruins of massive space stations and planetary defense networks. Archaeological evidence painted a picture of an incredible last stand that had lasted for centuries. They held the line, Minji continued. For over 300 years, they fought the harvesters to a standstill. Their sacrifice gave thousands of other species time to escape to the hidden refuge, but in the end, they all died defending the galaxy. The assembly hall fell silent again as the full meaning sank in. The beings who had sent the warning weren't just giving advice. They were offering humanity the same choice they had faced 10,000 years ago. Representative Sarah Chen from the European Federation stood up. So our choices are to run like cowards or die like heroes. There has to be another option. What if we split the difference? Suggested Dr. Park Jin-ho from the Korean Space Consortium. Send some of humanity to the refuge while the rest stay to fight. That way our species survives no matter what happens. The suggestion sparked intense debate. Some argued that splitting humanity would weaken both groups. Others claimed it was the only logical choice. The arguing went on for hours as representatives struggled with the impossible decision. President Song finally called for order. We have heard all the arguments, she said. Tomorrow we vote. Do we evacuate our entire species to the hidden refuge? Do we stay and fight with everything we have? Or do we try to split our people between both options? As the assembly broke up for the night, small groups of representatives gathered in the gear corridors, continuing their debates in quieter voices. Some prayed to their various gods for guidance. Others studied the tactical data, looking for any advantage they might have missed. Dr. Minji Kim stood alone at the podium, looking up at the star charts still glowing above the empty seats. Somewhere out there, survivors from dozens of dead civilizations were waiting in the dark between galaxies, hoping that humanity would choose wisdom over pride. But she also knew that somewhere else in the dark, ancient predators were moving slowly toward Earth, confident that this cycle would end like all the others before it. The fate of humanity would be decided by a simple vote, and she had no idea which choice would prove to be the right one. Captain Jiwon Nam floated in the zero gravity of her ship's bridge, watching the sensor displays with growing amazement. The massive alien vessels were emerging from the darkness between stars like ancient monsters awakening from a deep sleep. Each ship was the size of a small moon, their black hulls absorbing light and making the stars disappear behind them. Contact. In 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Soo-hyun Kim from the navigation station. His voice was steady, but Jiwon could see his hands shaking slightly as he worked the controls. The harvesters had arrived exactly when the ancient warning predicted they would. For 50 years, humanity had debated whether to run or fight. In the end, they had chosen something completely different. They had chosen to end the cycle forever. All ships report ready, came the voice of Communications Officer Young Jae Lee. Throughout the outer solar system, human fleets waited in positions that had been planned for decades. Hidden bases on asteroids powered up their weapons while cloaked ships drifted silently in the dark. Admiral Min Ho-yoon's voice filled every ship in the human fleet. Today we face an enemy that has been killing civilizations for millions of years, he said over the communication system. They expect us to run or die like all the others before us. They are about to learn that humanity is different, the harvester. Ships moved in perfect formation, just as the ancient records had predicted. They had used the same tactics for so long that they saw no reason to change. Their massive vessels approached inhabited worlds in a pattern that had never failed them before. But this time, they were walking into a trap that had been 50 years in the making. "Execute protocol, Guardian," Admiral Yoon commanded. "Show them what happens when they threaten our home." The space around the Harvester fleet suddenly blazed with light as hundreds of human ships revealed themselves. Weapons that had been reverse-engineered from the ancient warnings opened fire simultaneously. Quantum disruptors, built using technology, learned from the alien message, tore through shields that had protected the Harvesters for millions of years. Dr. Minji Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the battle unfold on tactical displays. She was no longer just a scientist studying ancient signals. She had become the strategic advisor who helped plan humanity's greatest gamble. "Their shields are adapting," reported Dr. Taehyun Park, who was monitoring the enemy's defensive systems. "But not fast enough. They've never faced weapons designed specifically to counter their technology." The Harvester ships tried to respond with their own weapons, massive energy beams that could destroy planets. But the human fleet scattered in patterns that the aliens couldn't predict. Instead of fighting like previous civilizations, humanity used tactics that the Harvesters had never encountered before. "Phase 2, Admiral Yoon ordered. "All hunter groups, begin your attack runs." Small, fast human ships darted between the massive alien vessels like insects attacking giants. They carried specialized warheads that had been designed to exploit weaknesses discovered in the ancient warning data. The Harvesters' huge size, which had always been their strength, became a weakness when facing enemies that could strike from unexpected angles. Captain Ji-won Nam watched one of the alien ships begin to break apart as internal explosions tore through its hull. The sight was both terrifying and beautiful. These creatures had destroyed countless civilizations, but they had never learned to adapt because they had never needed to. "Their formation is collapsing," observed Lieutenant Soo-hyun Kim. The perfect order that the Harvesters had maintained for millions of years was falling apart as human tactics disrupted their ancient patterns. Dr. Minji Kim smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display. "They've been using the same methods for so long that they forgot how to change," she said to Dr. Taehyun Park. "We had 10,000 years to study their tactics, but they never studied anyone else's." The battle lasted for 6 hours. One by one, the massive Harvester ships were destroyed or disabled. Some tried to retreat back into dark space, but human pursuit vessels followed them, making sure that none escaped to warn others of their kind. When the last alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the entire human fleet fell silent. They had done something that no other civilization in galactic history had accomplished. They had not just survived the harvest, they had ended it. Admiral Yoon's voice came over the communication system again, but this time it was filled with wonder instead of determination. "All ships begin Phase 3. It's time to send our own message." Deep space transmission arrays throughout the solar system came online. Instead of receiving ancient warnings, they began broadcasting a new message to every corner of the galaxy. Dr. Minji Kim had written the transmission herself, using the same quantum encryption methods that had carried the original warning across 10,000 years of time. "The cycle is broken," the message began. "The Harvesters are gone. Humanity stands guard now. Any civilization receiving this transmission should know that the galaxy is safe. The Guardians are here." As the message spread outward at the speed of light, Captain Ji-won Nam looked out at the debris field that had once been humanity's greatest threat. They had chosen neither flight nor surrender. Instead, they had become the protectors that future civilizations would depend on. The age of fear was over. The age of Guardians had begun.